Hi guys, my name is Daniel Crossley and I'm a sales engineer with LogRhythm. So in the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to show you how the LogRhythm integrated security platform can help you make marginal gains through every step of your security workflow. These marginal gains can in total lead to large amounts of efficiency gains for your security team and therefore increase the operational efficiency of your overall security operations. So let's get started. So if you've never seen LogRhythm before, let me walk you through very briefly what it might look like through the eyes of a security analyst. Now, if I was a security analyst, what I'm looking at here is the alarm screen, and each one of these alarms has been raised as a potential threat in my environment. Now, as an analyst, some of the things that I'll be doing is clicking on the alarm to look up the details. I'll certainly be drilling down into the log data which actually generated that alarm, and at the same time, I'll go ahead and create a case to help me track what I'm actually doing. Okay, so if I go ahead and save that. Now, if in my investigation I declare this to be a security incident, because one of the first things I'll be doing is a pre-qualification or a qualification to determine if this is a security incident or a false positive. If I declare this to be an incident, I would formally declare my case to be an incident, at which point I could go ahead and add a playbook which will give me a standard response procedure that I can therefore then follow to respond and clean up this particular threat. Right, so that is a very brief overview of the LogRhythm platform through the eyes of a security analyst. And as you can see, LogRhythm gives me, as an analyst, a workbench with a very tightly integrated workflow that helps me detect, qualify, and respond to this particular incident. But what marginal gains could we potentially make through each one of these steps? So using the LogRhythm platform, we can apply elements of automation to help in the qualification stage and also help in the response phase. So let's walk through another scenario. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the iCar test string to simulate a piece of malware being written to a critical machine. So here I've got my critical server, I've got a very critical folder. I'm going to go ahead and save that iCar test string. If you've never used iCar before, it's actually a test string which you can use to test your antivirus. So I'm going to go ahead and save that, and then save that to my folder. So what does that look like through the eyes of LogRhythm? Now, what we're doing here is we're simulating a piece of malware being written to a critical folder on a critical machine. Now, as we know, there are many types of malware there that are designed to evade our antivirus signatures. So in this case, I'm using LogRhythm file integrity monitoring on my endpoint to monitor changes to that particular folder. And when we get an event from our FIM, or when we get a change event from our FIM, we're detecting a file being written to that folder, we're going to take some actions automatically. So we can see an alarm has just popped up here in response to that file being read, in response to that file being written. Now, as I said, LogRhythm is an integrated platform. It's also an open platform, so we're going to leverage our VirusTotal plugin to actually perform an initial qualification on that particular file. If you've never used VirusTotal before, actually, it's a fantastic resource. And if you have used VirusTotal before, you probably know that there is almost always a certain amount of false positives. So what we're going to do is, using the VirusTotal plugin, we are going to check the file hash of the new file. In this case, the new file was the iCar test string. We're going to check that against the VirusTotal database, and we're going to apply some intelligence by saying that if there's more than 10 detections from VirusTotal, we can go ahead and declare that to be a security incident. I don't think that's an unreasonable number. That threshold could be changed. But especially given this could be a critical application server or whatever it may be, we're going to go ahead and declare a security incident. Now, second of all, we can automate the response to that. So just to recap, we've got a file that's been written to a critical folder. We've qualified that as being malware. We've declared a security incident. Now we're going to go ahead and execute a smart response, which is going to take some kind of action to mitigate that threat. In this particular case, we are going to issue a policy tag on our endpoint management console. In this case, we're using McAfee EPO. We're going to issue a policy tag which would have been predefined, and that is going to take some kind of action. And the first action that will come to mind is quarantining that machine on the network, especially if we know that it has got a piece of malware written to it. So what does this look like from the point of view of an analyst? Well, one of the things that I I don't need to do is actually look at the alarms. I could go straight to my cases, because what has happened here is my VirusTotal plugin has gone and created a case and escalated that to be an incident. So I've got my open incidents here, and let me just talk you through by showing you the history of what's happened here. So we've got the file that's written to my endpoint, and VirusTotal has actually, the VirusTotal plugin has declared that it's been malicious. You can see it's got 57 detections from 60 scanners. The VirusTotal report has been appended or annotated to my case, because as an analyst I don't want to have to hunt around. Everything should be given to me at my fingertips. You know, that's one of the benefits of automation. If I wanted to view the VirusTotal report, I could go ahead and click on it there. It's added as evidence to my case. If I go back to my history, just to kind of talk you through that, I can see that I've created the case, added the alarm to the case, checked VirusTotal, and then at the same time we have at the point where we have qualified that by saying that there's more than 10 detections of VirusTotal, we have created or elevated that to be a security incident, or declared a security incident automatically. Okay, at the same time, we've also added a playbook, a response playbook to that. Now, once we have declared an incident, we need to therefore mitigate this threat to ensure that it doesn't spread anywhere else on our endpoint. And the way that we're going to do that is by applying a policy tag on McAfee EPO. So if I go back to my evidence, I can see that the next step is to apply a policy tag on EPO and also issue an agent wake up. Now, this is information that's been provided from the EPO database. If I wanted to view that system in EPO, I could just go ahead and click on the link there. That will open up my EPO console, and I could see that the tag, in this case, we're just calling it compromised, has been added to this particular machine. And that is going to instruct EPO to apply a policy by saying that this machine is compromised, so therefore take the predefined action, in which case we're going to lock down the machine and quarantine on the network to ensure that the malware has got no way of actually spreading. So what does this mean as an analyst? Okay, well, one of the other things that has happened here, just to quickly talk you through that, is at the point where we mitigated that by issuing the policy tag, we've also changed the status of this to be mitigated. Okay, so we've changed it from being a security incident to being mitigated, which is why it's listed as mitigated here. So what that means is, as a security analyst, when I pick this up, this is already at the point where the incident has been detected, qualified, and mitigated, rather than me just picking up an alarm and following through those steps that I showed you earlier. Now, the playbook that's been added to this case has been done so automatically, so all it means is when I pick up this case as an analyst, I just need to go ahead and respond to this from the point where the incident has been mitigated. So some of the things that I'll be doing is determining the scope of the incident, restoring services by potentially performing DR failover, doing a forensic examination to harvest some indicators of compromise, reimaging the machine, and therefore resolving a case. So let's walk through this step by step as a bit of a recap. So I'm going to walk you through it again. So we have a FIM event that has detected a new file being written to a critical server. The FIM log has been ingested by the LogRhythm platform, and once that's happened, LogRhythm has executed a smart response automatically to run a check of the file hash against VirusTotal. We've applied some intelligence to that by saying that if there's greater than 10 detections in VirusTotal, we can therefore immediately declare an incident and take the following actions. So we've created a case and declared an incident. We annotate our case with the VirusTotal results, and then also added a response playbook. Secondly, once we've declared an incident, we want to mitigate that threat automatically, and the way that we're going to do that is by executing another smart response to automatically mitigate the threat. In this case, we're going to run a smart response which automatically issues a policy tag in McAfee EPO. That policy tag will lock down the endpoint and change the incident status to mitigated and annotate the case accordingly, at which point me as a human analyst, I'm going to be picking this up, as opposed to just picking up an alarm and going through those manual steps that I walked you through before. So let's try and quantify some of the efficiency gains that have been made in this particular scenario. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is talk you through some of the time that it might take if I was an analyst responding to an alarm manually. How long is it going to take me to perform each step? Well, first of all, there is a period of time, there's always, in fact, going to be a period of time between when I, as a human, look up an alarm. And by that I mean, the time when the alarm is raised to the time when me as a human actually looks at that alarm. And I've just said here conservatively 15 minutes. I mean, that's probably quite small. It could be a lot longer. It could be in the order of hours. It depends on whether or not there's an SLA and the type of alarm and so forth, and what I'm actually doing at the time, of course. So let's say it takes me 15 minutes to actually pick up that alarm. Now, there's going to be a period of time where it's going to take me to qualify that incident. In this particular case, I could perform a hash lookup of virus total or whatever it may be. And I'm going to say again, conservatively, it's going to take another 15 minutes because I have to drill down, get that hash, and then flick over to my other screens, perform those lookups and interpret the results. Once I have determined that to be an incident, I need to formally declare an incident, I need to annotate the case accordingly, and then also I need to look up the relevant response procedures. So I've also said this step is probably going to take me another 10 to 15 minutes, let's say 15 minutes, right? Once I've declared an incident, I'm going to log into my endpoint management console and apply some policy actions to try and quarantine that on the network. If we know we've got some kind of malware outbreak, this is what we're going to be wanting to do. But I'm also going to say conservatively, it's going to take me about 10 minutes to do that. Okay, some of the other things that I might be doing as an analyst in response to a security incident is obviously log a ticket with the service desk. I could be adding the hash of the malicious file to an internal IOC watch list. I could be annotating the case, so on and so forth, okay? All of these actions could potentially be automated. So what I'm saying here is if we were to manually follow them up, the total time taken for me to respond to this case is around 70 minutes. And again, I don't think that's unreasonable. If I flick back to the case, I can view the metrics and you can see here, because we automated the detection, qualification, and response, our time to detect and our time to respond here in this case has been 1 minute. So how much time are we actually saving overall? Well, if it takes us 70 minutes, roughly speaking, to respond to this type of incident, if we get 50 of these types of incidents a week, which is a bit of an estimation, but I don't think that's an unreasonable number, 50 of these types of incidents. If we times that by 52 weeks a year, how much time savings do we actually get if we were to automate this response? Over 3,000 hours a year. So, in short, this is just a very brief overview of how the LogRhythm integrated security platform can help you save a large amount of time by applying some marginal gains to every step in your response process. Thank you very much.